Our next presenter this afternoon, Victoria Salomon, are we doing our best to punish sex offenders?
In 2011, a 13-year-old girl was raped and filed a report. Her sex offender was released and then proceeded to rape her again. In 2013, Washington, D.C., 19-year-old Lara McLeod was raped by her brother-in-law. When she reported her rape, they told her it never happened. Students, staff members, and honorable judges, I'm here to talk about one of today's most serious issues, the way we deal with sex offenders. For every 100 rapes, 32 get reported to the police, 7 lead to an arrest, 3 are referred to prosecutors, 2 lead to a felony conviction, and only 2 rapists will spend a single day in prison. The other 98 will walk free. This is why I am advocating focus to reevaluate the way we process, prosecute, and reassimilate sex offenders into society. I will divide this topic into 3 parts: the processing at the police station, the justice in the court of law, and what happens after a sex offender is released. Firstly, the police station. There are multiple ways of filing a report if you've been assaulted. You can call 911, go to the hospital, or go to the police and report it in person. Anywhere ranging from a few days to a few weeks, they will call and tell you whether or not they will be continuing the case based on the amount of evidence they obtain. If you take the hospital route, you can go and ask to see an SART nurse. SART stands for Sexual Assault Response Team. They are specialized in treating any injuries within 72 hours of an attack. They will perform a rape kit as well as check your risk of contracting STDs and if you're a woman, getting pregnant. If you walk into the emergency room bruised and in pain and the rape kit is consistent, right there should be ample evidence that something traumatic happened. For the police to take the victim's side into account and then dismiss it since they couldn't find enough evidence on the suspect is disgusting. The police are supposed to be impartial, simply working on the case, although it's never been that easy. If you go to them, they will ignore you, or they'll keep you on edge for weeks at a time before telling you whether or not you might even get a chance at justice. An example is Lara McLeod. As I mentioned at the beginning, she was told to report her rape, and when she did, they arrested her and told her she was lying. Why tell someone to come forward if you're going to punish them? There's a problem with the system when rape victims are the ones being processed instead of the actual rapists. Moving along to my second issue, the way we prosecute sex offenders. What happens when a rapist is actually found guilty and brought to court? There's a trial that's held where all the evidence collected is presented in front of a judge and a jury where they will decide whether or not the alleged rapist is truly guilty and deserves to be punished. If the police, as languid as they can be with rape reports, found enough hard evidence to send someone to court, there should be enough to convict them. There should be no errors here. As I mentioned, a 13-year-old girl was raped. She took her rapist to court and lost, since they couldn't find enough evidence pointing to the fact that he raped her. Shortly after his release, he raped her again, getting her pregnant. That is a mistake that should not have happened. It's clear that the court does not want to prosecute an innocent person if they're innocent, but it's much worse when you do not believe that a preteen has been raped and then she proceeds to be raped again. 4% of rape victims that have taken their rapist to court and lost have been assaulted again by the same person. And hundreds of other sex offenders have simply raped again, maybe even again after that. In 2003, serial rapist Errol Henry was released early from his sentence as he was deemed not a long-term danger to women. Less than 2 years after his sentence, he raped a 22-year-old woman. The court called this a travesty, a real miscarriage of justice, and then apologized. The court is supposed to look at the evidence they received and make a decision based upon this. If there was enough evidence to send someone to court, there should have been enough for prosecution to properly do their job, which they don't have a history of doing. Finally, what happens after a sex offender is let back out into society? If they'd been in prison for no matter what period of time, their lives should have been smeared forever. They're now registered as sex offenders, making their living ever the more difficult, although not difficult enough for them to be unable to rape again. In 2006, 50% of rapists didn't even serve half their sentence since they were let off for good behavior. 769 rapists actually. Of the 4,960 that had been convicted, over 100 of them had already been charged for the same crime and simply let go. Rapists are treated too kindly. They get let go for being somewhat decent beings and for not raping anybody in prison, but in all seriousness, who are they supposed to rape in solitary confinement? Once they're out, of course they can just rape again. It's in their instincts and it's not something that they can change. And I think it's disgusting that they still get let go. Some of them even achieve relatively normal lives, but why? Why do they deserve normalcy when they've caused so much harm and continue to cause so much harm? Yet they get to live freely because clearly rape isn't taken as seriously as it should be. I hope I've managed to bring some light to the fact that we need to desperately fix the way we handle rapists. We need to tighten the investigations and ensure that there is no loss of evidence. We need a better justice system, and once they're actually trialed, we need to ensure that they're not let back out into society. Rape is a violation of someone's right to their own body, privacy, and safety. It's been taken from them in the most brutal of ways, and if you rape, you should not ever reobtain your right to safety. So tell me, is that justice?